I'm Whitney.
I'm Mindy.
And I'm Deb.
We're three best friends who love nerdy things.
Well, some people think we're nerdy, but we think we're pretty awesome.
This is our nerdiest thing.
Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. Today, we are discussing episode 4 of The Fall of the House of Usher, titled The Black Cat.
Meow.
And Edgar Allan Poe's short story, super short story of the same name.
But super convoluted and pretty pretentious.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we'll get into it all. Deb, will you please share our nerdiest cocktail?
Of course. In the theme of the Black Cat, tonight's drink is named What's Up, Pussycat?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Thank you. I was hoping someone was going to do it. So it's themed after this episode and that story, but also bouts of violence with a cat. Like you do. This drink will pair well with eating a spoonful of shit and smiling about it, getting a BJ while a cat watches, and tearing down your walls with Mjolnir, which is Thor's hammer.
I enjoyed that detail.
I loved it so much. So, but beware because it may cause a slow demise into madness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
It was.
So this drink is a really delicious strawberry mule, and
that's so good.
Want to drink it. It's really good. I made Whitney a non-alcoholic one, but it had something that she was allergic to in it. And I've known her for like 15 years. So
it is the thought that counts. Well, thank you so much, Deb. And now it's my turn for the Nerdy and Dirty recap, which is not timed because there's just too much going on. So I did not know anything about the Black Cat, both the episode of the show or Edgar Allan Poe's
I hadn't read
work.
the story before.
Yeah, I didn't know this. I'd never even heard of it. So The Black Cat by Poe is a short story where our narrator is telling us all about how his life got turned upside down. Seemingly. I knew you guys would like that. Seemingly by his black cat. So the narrator tells us he's a big animal lover. He's got lots of pets with his wife, but his favorite is his black cat, Pluto. But sadly, the narrator has a drinking problem, and part of that includes his mood and behavior becoming extremely erratic. And he ends up hurting that cat, plucking its eyeball out, and then feeling so bad about it that he eventually hangs his cat and kills it, and then accidentally burns his house down, or his house burns down? ? I was a little confused about that.
I think he burned it down on purpose.
Yeah, I was confused about exactly. But the house was burning.
Like he got drunk and then he was like, "Oh, the house is on fire."
That's kind of what I was thinking, right. But it was just a little
like
convoluted.
Negligence, but it was definitely him.
Yeah. So, this is a totally normal response to a cat, whatever. So eventually he decides he misses that cat. And when he's drinking away his guilt and sorrow, he sees a random black cat that looks almost exactly like his Pluto. So he takes him home to replace the cat that he killed. So our new cat is lovely and wants to be around the narrator all the time. So obviously the narrator hates it and decides to kill that cat too, and tries to hit the cat with an axe. But his wife, who seems like a normal person, gets in the way, and he, quote, accidentally hits her in the head with the axe and kills the wife. So our narrator doesn't really seem too bothered about that and plasters her into the wall in the cellar to hide the body. So when other people around realize this wife is missing, the narrator, of course, lets them search his house multiple times, but they never find anything. So he decides to point out the plastered wall and talk about how great that wall is and hits it. And when he does, there's a crazy yowl from inside the wall. Hey, he hasn't seen that cat since he killed his wife. Because he plastered it into the wall right. with her dead body.
And the cat was like, "Motherfucker, I'm in here."
Right, yeah. And so then they find the corpse, and that's the end of that story. Yeah. So there was a lot going on.
Poe is obsessed with walling people up inside things.
It's like a buried alive kind of fear almost.
Yeah. Did you notice the part of the story, and I don't have my notebook in here, I wish I'd brought it, where he essentially says like, "And I help my wife out by slapping her around every once in a while."
I did not. I missed that detail. Man.
Lord. Yeah, it is like that. Okay, so that story reminded me of trying to read someone's rant on social media that they don't use capital letters or punctuation.
It's all one giant
and I was
run-on
like,
sentence.
okay, his stuff is pretty brilliant. I mean, I think he definitely had his own descent into madness, and that's why his stuff's so great. But like this one, I'm just like, you're just writing like an asshole.
I'm going to talk more about it later.
Okay. I think it was intentional. I think
I think so too.
That's 100%.
But that's what I'm saying. He's being a pretentious asshole.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. Because when I do my deep dive later, maybe you'll still feel that way, but maybe not. I don't know. So that's the story. So now here we have the episode. The Black Cat. We focus mostly on Leo, but we do get a little bit of story from everybody else too. But it is just like Prospero's episode was very heavily Prospero. This one is very heavily Leo. So we do see young Roderick and young Augie meet, and Augie is revealing that there's fraud within Fortunato that includes forging Roderick's signature on some fraudulent documents. Roderick declines to help Augie, but brings this up with Rufus, who basically is like, shut up, be a team player, and don't worry about this. And Roderick's like, cool. And Madeline encourages him to play both sides and set himself up for success. And he's like, yes, babe. I mean, sister. And then in the current timeline, the past is catching up to Roderick and Madeline when they get a clear image of Verna as the security guard when Camille is killed. And Roderick and Madeline seem to immediately recognize her, but don't really seem to know what to do about it. They just kind of see the picture and are like, oh, but then they don't talk about it. So
what?
Yeah, so I'm sure that'll come up in the next episode.
She does go to the old tavern.
Does, that's true. Madeline goes to where that bar had been, which is like a boarded up nothing at this point. So, question mark about all that.
There was Raven graffiti, though?
Yeah, I did.
And a Raven
and an actual Raven, yeah. So Verna is still showing up to Tammy as the sex worker in Bill's workout video, but it seems like only Tammy can see her because Bill swears that he didn't know she was there. So I think that Verna is messing with Tammy, clearly. Verna is still in talks with Victorine to be part of the human trial for the heart. What is it called? Heart device?
Mesh?
Heart mesh, something, whatever that is, to be part of the human trial.
$200,000 intellectual property. That's what Roderick calls it.
Whatever that is. So we also got a little bit more information about Roderick's new wife. He is basically forcing her to stay on Ligadone all the time so she can be proof that it is not harmful. So I knew he was doing something gross with her, but that was still like worse than I.
Sleazy.
Yeah, this is not an age gap I'm a fan of.
No, definitely not. And then last but not least, we have Leo's story. He finds a black cat that looks just like the dead cat Pluto that he adopts with the help of, guess who? Verna. But the new cat is a nightmare. It attacks Leo all the time. It's killing critters and birds and leaving them all over the house for Leo to find, including under his pillow, which was gross. And Leo is slowly losing his mind, like for real. He calls Verna to take the cat back, and that whole scene devolves into Verna disappearing and Leo being deranged, basically trying to find this cat and kill it. And he demolishes his entire apartment, tears into the walls, and eventually runs and lunges for the cat out on the balcony and falls to his death.
Do you notice though? Nobody else sees the cat. Like it's not actually there.
I noticed.
Okay.
Oh, I noticed.
Yeah. His boyfriend is like, what the fuck you doing, dude?
Yeah. So that's the episode. And that's the story.
It was a wild ride.
Yeah. I watched the episode before I read the story and I was like, what is this? And then I read the story.
I did that a couple times
and
too.
I was like, oh.
That's so funny.
Okay,
I always read
sense.
the story first.
Oh, yeah, no. I've been watching the
funny.
episodes and then reading the story.
I think because it makes me... I think I would go in with a biased opinion.
Yeah,
if I
with the
read
story.
the story first.
I like to know what I'm comparing it to first for some reason. I don't know.
That, in a nutshell, is the difference in the way that we think.
I know. Yep.
Well, Mindy, let us know how you think and tell us about our nerdiest vocabulary.
I would love to. So this week, I've got a few little tidbits. The first one I want to start out with the cat, of course. Cat's name is Pluto. And it is named Pluto also in the story. So they did carry, that carries into the episode. And Pluto is, if you recall from your mythology lessons.
I was going to say a Disney character.
Not a dog.
I don't know.
But the Greek god of the underworld.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about black cats and their
So is it
the bad rap they get?
The Roman name versus the Greek name for Hades?
Yes.
Hades and Pluto are the same.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That makes me look at things differently.
That makes
Right,
the cat a
right.
little sexier.
Yes, I would like to make a deal.
That's
so
interesting.
yes, I think that's. I think obviously that was intentional
Yeah.
in Poe's story, even so. But just a nice little tidbit. Now we're going to talk about Napoleon. Quote Leo Usher.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Didn't know his name was Napoleon.
Let's talk about Rahul Poli. Is that his last name?
What a man,
Coley,
what a
yeah.
man, what a man, what a mighty good man.
yes, he is.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Sorry, if you don't know who we're talking about, just go look up a picture. He's
damn fine.
fine.
All right. So I think I talked last week about how Prospero and Camille are the only ones that actually are from the stories that.
Their character names.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Napoleon is not from the Black Cat. You did not see Napoleon or Leo, even though Leo is a lion and a cat. So that makes
Oh, look at
some
that.
interesting
Yeah.
twist there. But Napoleon's connection to Poe's work is the character of Napoleon Bonaparte Simpson from the short story The Spectacles.
Oh.
This is a very
Is
interesting
that an
story.
Edgar Allan Poe story?
It is an
Okay.
Edgar Allan Poe story. In this story, Napoleon refuses to wear his glasses because he fancies himself quite the handsome rake and doesn't think glasses are sexy, apparently.
Yes, they are.
They are very sexy.
They can turn a man into such a fucking
I'm serious.
slut.
Like, I don't know what this guy was thinking, but yeah, he's. I said he's wrong, by the way.
You're smart and hot.
Yeah.
Take off my
Yeah.
pants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's totally wrong. Anyway, he goes to the theater with some friends and sees an attractive, wealthy woman, and he becomes very enamored with her, and they get married.
Ooh.
She's a widow. And on the wedding night, Napoleon puts on his glasses and realizes she is pretty old and she has a bunch of wrinkles and no teeth.
Oh.
How blind is he? And he never
I know, right?
He never touched
He
her
never-
face.
None
And
of
he
his
never
friends
put-
were like, are you sure?
Like,
man?
dude. Yeah, his friends were assholes.
You sure about that?
I think before I married him, I would have been like, I probably should put on my glasses real quick. Although that makes it sound super shallow, but you know.
And
But why didn't? I mean, I get he doesn't want to wear them, but he never put them on. Like, can he read without them? Can he do?
I'm sure I've said this on the podcast, but it makes me think of my grandmother when my parents were getting married. My dad had a beard, and my grandma was like, "You need to make him shave that off. He could be hideous under there." And so he did.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, that's like the equivalent of this.
So naturally, this arrogant asshole dramatically overreacts,
Of course.
and so when you look at this is not anything that happens in this episode. But I do believe that the flair for the dramatic seems to have carried over into Napoleon Usher's character.
Yeah.
So.
That's really well, and it's
Thank you for
also
that.
not seeing things clearly.
Oh yeah, true. I like that tie-in.
See what I
Okay,
did?
I'm really hoping whenever, because I think Tamerlane's episode is not next. It's Victorine's, but I'm hoping you can find something that has to do with Tamerlane in your vocab, because I've not figured that one out.
She's based. Her character.
Don't tell us yet.
I'm not.
I'm excited.
But
I don't know
but
because
yes,
I haven't.
she will.
I haven't dove into it yet, but yeah, her character's based on another story.
I'm sure they all
So,
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, I have one more thing, and that was
Ooh.
I found an interesting fact about, well, not about Ligadone, but how it ties into Poe's things.
Oh, okay.
So people seem to think that it's likely a reference to Poe's story Ligeia. I don't know how to say it, but this is a short story, and that it talks a lot in the story about the inevitability of death, as well as having a narrator who is addicted to opium. And Ligadone is an opioid.
Sure.
So I thought that was a neat little tie-in.
But it's totally safe.
Absolutely. 100%.
Interesting.
Just look at my wife.
She's great. Oh, that was horrible. Well, the vocab was not horrible. Thank
Well,
you so
thank
much
you.
for that.
I always have
was
fun
great.
with vocab.
I always enjoy listening to your vocab. Well, that brings us to our favorite moment of this episode. And I can go ahead and get us started because you both took a drink at the exact same time.
I have ice in my mouth. Don't call on me.
My favorite moments, I have two. First, special shout out to Leo using Thor's hammer to demolish his apartment. I just thought that was a really funny, of course, a family like that would have a replica from, Thor himself, Chris Hemsworth, gets a name drop of you
Right.
can just send me another one. I thought that was really funny. But my favorite moment, I laughed out loud for real when this happened. is going to sound bad at first, but when Leo is getting cocaine for Freddy and the cat jumps out and scratches him in the eye and he's like, freaking out because he just got scratched on the eyeball, and Freddy is like, I'm going to just take this cocaine and I'm going to go. Yeah. That made me laugh hard.
I do have something to add to that scene, though, because if you know me in real life or you follow me online on my design account, so a year ago, I had my eye damaged.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And I had a corneal tear.
Yeah.
And all I could think the whole time, because if the cat had scratched him the way that he did, Leo would not have had any vision in that eye for at least 24 hours.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, it was literally one of the most painful things. And I mean, I've had children, right? I've passed kidney stones. I've done,
I can't imagine.
It hurts so bad
Was
because
it-
if you think about it, your eyelid is touching it the whole time and your tears are remaking over it. So there's no rest off
There's
of the
no
cut.
relief.
Yeah.
And my eye was swollen shut for 36 hours. So there's no way Leo could have been playing video games.
No.
And he would have killed the cat based off that pain. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it was horrible.
Was it like PTSD when that happened?
I know.
was
Did that
little
trigger
bit.
you a little
It
bit?
was,
Yeah.
but I was also like, you would not be playing video games right now. I was like, something is seriously wrong with me, and it was just a cut in my eye.
Yeah.
Like it happens to people, but
But it sucks.
When
Yeah.
I posted, I had so many people reach out to me and go, "Oh my god, that happened to so and so," and they said it was the worst pain they've ever been in.
Yeah. It was gross looking when he goes and looks at it in the bathroom mirror or whatever. But yeah, Freddy just made me laugh. That whole Freddy in that entire scene when he's sweaty at the door because he
That was
walked
one
up
of
all the
mine.
stairs.
That was
made
one of
me
my
laugh.
favorites.
And then he's like, "I'm gonna go. Thanks for the Coke. Good luck with that."
Yeah.
And I know he's a bad person because obviously he's in this show. But I enjoyed
Freddy
him.
hasn't really done anything to have a redeeming quality yet.
No.
Well, and he hasn't done anything super
He has
horrible.
a bowling alley in his kitchen.
Well, no, that's just douchey, but that's not you deserve to die douchey. You know what I mean?
He's also just cringy.
I'm sure it's
whiny,
coming,
and he's like,
but-
"My
It's coming.
wife is suffering in
Yeah.
their." I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
your
hate
sister
him.
just died.
You'll
Yeah.
hate him, Whitney. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm sure. I have no doubt, but we're just not there yet,
Yeah.
Anyway, he made me laugh. What was your all's favorite
He
moment?
was also one of my favorite moments. Was when he showed up to Leo's out of breath, and I was totally reminded of the whole being scared of elevators thing.
Now,
So
why? We don't know why.
we still don't know why,
No.
but I just love that. That's he just sticks those in there.
It's just a little character.
Easter egg
Yeah.
to make you wonder.
A character
And so-
detail, yeah.
But he was he played it really well too. He's like, okay, hang on, I'm just gonna catch my breath. He's like, I haven't been to this one yet.
It's a lot of stairs.
Why are you up here? But I also enjoyed, and this is my little shout out to Arthur Pym, when he argues with Roderick about enhancing the image. He's like, you can't really do that. It's only on TV, right?
Yeah, that's not a real thing.
Come on, you dumbass.
I liked that too. Roderick's like, just enhance it. Just
do it.
Just do it. Just press the button. Just do it.
On Criminal Minds, it's just like it was 100 yards away, but they're like, look, we have a full license plate.
Well, that's because they had the blonde girl, whatever her name was.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
what they
yeah.
need in the show.
They
They need
do.
one of her.
Right. I loved it when Rufus brought up the golden ticket. So even though he's using it as a metaphor to keep Roderick in line, I couldn't help getting excited about the reference because it's my favorite childhood book, which is Charlie and the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I want a golden ticket.
So it also gives us some cool foreshadowing, though, because the golden ticket in Roald Dahl's story is symbolic of wealth, power, and privilege, which we don't know how Roderick gets it yet. And so I love that, we're
I have some
foreshadowing.
theories.
Yeah, we're foreshadowing about how he is going to get there.
Sure. Yeah.
So I thought that was a cool little tie-in.
Yeah. What about our least favorite moments?
I want to talk about Juno again.
Oh, yeah.
I hate the way the family treats her.
I do
Yeah.
too.
Tammy calls her it and says, "Why is it talking right now? Should it be talking?" Another member of the family calls her a junkie tart.
Yeah.
And it's not her fault. She hasn't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
She just married a guy that could, give her some stability. She was an addict. And the problem, and you already brought this up, is that he won't let her stop taking the Ligadone. He's literally her drug dealer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's doing it all to make sure that his image during this trial works out. And so I'm like, what are you going to do with her when this is over? So, and she doesn't seem like a horrible person by any means. I mean, she might be an opportunist.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a lot of people are, right?
Well, and she's probably
I
just a
feel
little
bad for
messed
her.
up too. But yeah, she doesn't. She's trying hard. She's trying to be nice or be quiet when she feels like she needs to be quiet. She's not.
She's respectful of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just hate the way they treat her.
Yeah, they do treat her terribly.
Also that Roderick's like, yeah, keep talking to her like that.
Yeah, he never says, don't talk to my wife
word.
like that. Yeah.
He never says a word. Didn't she say first or second episode to Lenore that she was in a really bad accident?
Yeah, so she was her leg was crushed.
That's
and
what
she
I
started
thought.
It was amputated. She has a prosthetic, right?
So yeah,
Yes.
they had her leg was crushed. They had to take it off, and Ligodone was what helped her. And then for some reason, I don't know why, but Roderick was at the hospital and saw her success story.
I think that I'm pretty sure she said that the hospital called Fortunato because they were giving her more Ligodone than anybody.
That's right.
Yes.
And they came to like check her out.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Look, she's a
gross.
case study for this can't be, ineffective or addicting because she's taking like 80 of these a day.
Yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah.
Well, Miley's favorite moment was all the gory animal kills in this episode where Leo just keeps finding birds and rats and mice, and just the rat under the pillow was just so gross. That was horrific. Again, we said this last week. The cat was gorier to me than Camille's death, and the rat was worse to me than like
Leo's.
Yes.
Well, it's breaking like a private moment too. Like you feel safe in your bed, right?
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't reach under your pillow and feel blood.
Yeah.
It's just like breaking that whole barrier
I
of trust.
did not like it. But yeah, I did enjoy the detail that all of those animals were left in the same condition that Leo found the cat in. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
I did
Like,
not.
yeah, all the
Thank you for-
animals were
okay.
killed in the same, like with the entrails coming out
Yeah.
and stuff. I did appreciate that detail, but those were really gross, and I
were gross.
didn't like it.
Yeah.
What about you, Mindy?
Well, I had a couple. My one is the psychological one I didn't like was that Roderick borrowed his old boss's words and repeated them to his kids. The sir, yes, sir speech. And it was just
I
really
noticed that too.
smarmy and gross. And when you hear it again, you're like, oh God, he used that. Like, and of somebody that he despises, and he has become that person, which is, of course, like,
He wanted to be that person.
well, I don't know if he originally did, but I think that's what he ended up wanting to become.
His
Yeah.
girlfriend / sister.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the moment that Rufus was saying that to him, he did not want to be that person.
Exactly.
Right.
But eventually
He ended up there.
That is exactly
So that
what
was
he
kind
is.
of icky to me. But going back to what you said, okay, as the resident cat lover of this podcast, this episode really disturbed me.
Yeah.
So when he gouges out the kitty's eyes, yikes. I have this affinity
I
for
will
cats.
say though, I almost started laughing because it was so corny.
was
It was
super
the
corny.
only time in any Mike Flanagan show where I was like, that was really bad special effects.
Yeah.
It looked like Sabrina.
I was just about to say that.
It
Yes.
definitely did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
was like, it reminded me of like a spoof horror movie.
Yeah.
Right, the way he's like running around with it on its like on his neck and stuff.
Yeah.
Not the best scene.
No, but I did take it personally because I have an affinity for cats, and particularly black cats. Honestly, if I had the opportunity to take home a black cat, I'd probably end up, first of all, getting divorced by my husband because he would be so upset. But
Because you have another cat or because it's a black cat?
because it's a cat in general. Because he doesn't want me to bring
too
home
many.
random cats. But and he says he doesn't like cats, but let me just say he does. But whatever. Anyway, I've just always wanted a black cat, but they get a bad rap, right? So here I found some interesting facts about my favorite kitties. So
You're like, this episode bummed me out so hard.
that I'm going to tell you some cute.
Yeah,
Actually,
I had to
some
find some
of
nice
it's a little bit of a bummer. So first of all, and I'm not sure this one's true, but I can definitely see how it could have merit, and I just thought it was funny. Apparently, some people will think that the black cat costume is the number one choice of elementary age children and women in their freshman year of college. 100% I dressed up as a black cat in my sophomore year of college for Halloween.
Look at you.
Yes.
Going
So-
outside the norm.
There are pictures. I may have to find those and print and put them up on the website. That one's iffy. But beginning in the Middle Ages, black cats somehow got associated with Satan, witches, and witchcraft, which is kind of where all the superstitions and things come from.
Yeah.
They began to believe that black cats were accomplices to witches, or even that witches could transform into the cats, which resulted in the mass killing of black cats and sometimes their owners during the Middle Ages. I didn't realize that they would like...
I don't think I knew that
Yeah,
either.
that they associated them so much with witches that
they were killing
Yes.
black cats. Interesting.
And even today, many shelters won't place black cats into homes during the month of October for fear that they will be used sacrificially.
Aw,
I know.
Oh, my.
that's awful.
I had no idea
That is not where I thought that
was going to go. Yeah,
was
I
going to
didn't-
go.
I know.
Wow. Okay.
But there's definitely a thing called black cat bias, and it refers to black cats being given up to shelters at a higher rate, lower adoption rates for them, and consequently higher chance of euthanasia, all because people still have unfounded superstitions about black
Don't
cats
you
being
think
bad
that
luck.
if we told Darren the cat was going to be put down, he'd let you bring it home?
I doubt it.
What a jerk.
I know. He's dead inside.
Shout out to Darren.
I don't know. Honestly, if I came home with it and he didn't have an option,
Right.
he probably wouldn't talk to me for a couple of weeks, but we'd get over it.
Sometimes quiet is bliss.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd get a lot of reading done in those 2 weeks. Cuddled up with my black cat. But contrary to the crazy cat lady stereotype, black cats might actually improve your love life.
Oh.
So in Japan, women who own black cats are believed to attract more suitors.
Ooh.
And in some parts of Great Britain, a black cat is the ideal wedding gift because they are thought to bring happiness and good luck to the bride.
Well, okay.
A pussy for your pussy.
So maybe Darren and I just need to renew our vows, and I'll have everybody bring me a black cat.
It'll be like on Bridesmaids when she's giving out dogs as favors.
The other cool fact I found was that cats have a sailing history. Practically, they were brought on boats to control rodent problems, which makes sense. But British sailors also thought that they brought good luck. Pirates were a little more superstitious, though, and they had a little more rules. So if a black cat walks away from you, it's good luck. If it's walking towards you, it's bad luck. And if it boards the ship and then jumps off, your ship's going to sink.
Oh, my.
Yikes.
These are also the same guys that thought, though, that if a woman wasn't bare-chested on a ship, she
True.
was bad luck.
You got to show us your boobs.
Pull out
Or else we're going to
Pull out
die.
your titties or the wind isn't going to come.
All right, a couple more of these. Black cats actually can suntan.
Oh.
If they lounge too long in the sun, the UV rays can break down the black pigment of their fur, and they turn it like a rust color. And it stays that way until they shed it and new hair grows in its place.
That doesn't sound like that's a good thing, though.
I don't think it just takes it's just like us
Yeah.
making
Getting
more pigment in
sunburn.
our
That's interesting.
so I don't know. And it didn't say that was it, whether it was bad or good, but
It just is.
yeah, it just is. Black cats are also genetically dominant. Although most black cats also have a bit of white on them, overall black is the most common color of domesticated cats. Which surprised me too, because I don't feel like I see a whole lot of them. But maybe there's other parts of the world, like Great Britain and Japan, where there are a
Right.
ton of them. You know,
They're given to
good
all the
luck.
brides.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was interesting. And then finally, October 27th, notably 4 days before Halloween, is National Black Cat Day.
We'll have to celebrate.
Maybe that's when I'll get my black cat.
Or we could just paint our cats black.
I'm sure my cats would love that.
Well, thank you so much. And justice for all the black cats out there.
Exactly.
They're not bad luck.
They're not. When you see a black
want-
kitty,
they
just give it a
wanna be
little
loved.
love.
Yeah. They want to be loved just like everybody else.
They're not going to come scratch your eye out. Unless you're on drugs.
Unless you're Leo.
They are cats, but that's
Right.
any cat.
Right.
Right?
Well, let's talk about our biggest revelation. Deb, what was your biggest revelation?
Well, I can keep going talking about cats. So, you already brought up that the cat was bringing Leo dead animals, and it turns out he's not just being an asshole. I mean, he was, but he was essentially marking his territory and letting Leo know that this space is now the cat's space.
Yeah.
It no longer
Yep.
belongs to Leo.
Yeah.
And I always, when I was looking this up, I always thought it was like, oh, they're treats, or like, but when they're doing that, when they like the human, it's because they want to be like, look what a good hunter I am, and look what I
Right.
gave to you. But this cat was literally like pissing in the corners of the house,
Yeah.
going,
Yes.
this is mine, motherfucker. Get
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
I'm the man of the
I
house
thought
now.
it was hilarious too when he gets her to come in and help, and she's like, it's really strange for them to go put all these in the tub.
Yeah. It's like a weird arrangement in a circle or whatever. Yeah. It's just like, that's kind of odd.
He's like, they weren't there.
Thank you so much, Verna, for that. Well, my biggest revelation is what you were talking about, Deb, earlier with Roderick's new wife, and I can never remember her name.
Juno.
So, yeah, I mean, I knew there was something weird about that, but it really grossed me out that he's using her. He calls her his most beautiful, perfect proof that Ligadone is not harmful. And she's saying, I want to not take it for a couple of days. And he's like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And just, he very obviously has manipulated somebody in a vulnerable position. And it's gross. And it's such a far cry from the Roderick we see in the 70s.
Because he was in a vulnerable position and he was manipulated.
Well, and just the way that we see him interact with Annabelle, right? Like, it's just, he is a completely different person.
Absolutely.
And again, it's like, I need more about
Annabelle
that.
Lee kept him pure.
Yes.
Yeah.
He needed.
She kept him grounded.
And now he's just got his other lover, Madeline.
Gross.
Maybe that's why Madeline hates Juno.
Yeah, maybe. Golly. Mindy, what was your biggest revelation?
So we see, I think it was the last episode, that Japan, when he was younger, we knew he was going to be involved in some way, right?
Sure.
Even then. It was a cool revelation that they are actually going to end up working together. And I'm very curious to see how that goes awry.
Right, because they're clearly not working together.
Right. They're
There's
not
a lot of
working
bad blood
anymore.
there.
And then also, this escaped me in the first watch through, but that Roderick and Madeline's mom also died of Carticil.
Yeah, I thought she had cancer.
I did too.
Yeah.
I'd definitely forgotten about that. And I even brought up Carticil when he was talking about it.
Right.
So yeah, it makes sense then.
I guess I missed the connection. I was so focused on the mom being in so much pain.
Yeah.
I didn't make the connection that the pain was from the Carticil or connected to,
Or
you know
that
what I mean?
she was hallucinating.
Yes.
Right.
It's not very well shown.
Right.
I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yes.
It's not obvious. That's what I was trying to say. Shit.
No, I totally get
I've
that.
doubled
I
up
agree.
mine and Mindy's liquor and I drink.
Well, Mindy, what was your favorite tie-in to the original story?
Well, I actually feel like for the most part, it follows it pretty closely. I mean, obviously there's not like a wife, but like Verna sort of takes over that section of it.
Yeah.
But what I really loved was just the parallels between them, that they both really delved into the parallels between addiction and the descent into madness.
Yeah.
Because, in Poe's story, he was an alcoholic, which Poe was also an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So it really made me wonder, too, if that story was a little bit autobiographical in some respects.
Hopefully he didn't club someone in the head.
Yeah, hopefully he didn't kill any cats either, but...
Maybe metaphorical of like mistakes I made when I was drunk.
But like, there were some very specific, things that he was talking about when you are... drinking and descending into madness, like very specific feelings that you have that I feel like maybe he also felt. I just thought it was just brilliant to see, read the story and read that in the words and then see Leo actually do that descent.
Yeah.
It was very cool and very well done.
Yeah. Well done, Mike. Good job, Mike.
As usual.
Our
Deb, what about
favorite
you?
Mikey. So we just said earlier that I read the story second, right? And so the first time I watched this, I just thought that Verna being in the wall was a jump scare.
Right.
Right. I was like,
Right.
oh, there she is, because she disappears.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But knowing that the cat in the story essentially rats out the narrator by like screaming, meowing behind the wall is perfect because he is chopping the wall. There's the cat and there's Verna and she's missing one of her eyes, just like he pushed the cat's eyes out. And again, the boyfriend can't see anything.
Right.
He just thinks there's a dead body in the wall and is just going fucking insane. But I loved that little tie-in.
Yeah,
Because
I did
like
too.
Mike Flanagan is all about the jump scare. And I just thought that's what it was. But I was
Me
like,
too.
oh, it's the wife.
I had that same experience because I read the story second as well. Well, my favorite tie-in to the original story is actually my entire deep dive for this week because it clicked in my brain one of the major elements of storytelling that Mike Flanagan is using, or at least I think I get it. So maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I think. And it is using an unreliable narrator, which Edgar Allan Poe used in a lot of his writing. And the Black Cat narrator is actually a really perfect example of this. So welcome to my classroom, nerds, because I'm being Mrs. Weaver, the English teacher right now. So here we go. In general, an unreliable narrator is exactly what it sounds like. It's a narrator that you can't really trust. That you can't trust is telling you the full truth. So normally when you are reading fiction, the narrator's just telling you the information or the story to the best of their ability. If it's a first person point of view, they're telling you the story exactly as that character experienced it. So it's fully truthful in the respect of it being true to their experience as the character. Or if it's a third person POV, it's usually an all-knowing narrator that gives you all the details and what the characters are thinking and their motivations and gives you all this information. And as readers, we take for granted that the narrator is telling you the truth, right?
Right.
And you don't really think twice about whether or not you should
trust that person.
Question anything that the narrator's telling you.
I will say that when I'm looking at tropes and when we post our book reviews on our Instagram at our nerdiest thing, we always put our tropes down, and that is one trope I don't want to know because it's a little bit of a spoiler.
It is.
Yeah, it is a spoiler if you put it in a review for sure.
Yeah.
So Edgar Allan Poe and other writers, but especially Edgar Allan Poe, part of what makes his storytelling unique is his use of unreliable narrators, where over the course of the story, you're getting clues that maybe the narrator's not telling you the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And typically, unreliable narrators, including Poe's, either exaggerate, are detached from reality and incidentally being deceptive because of being detached from reality, or they're naive and accidentally missing some of the details, or they're just straight up being deliberately deceptive. So in The Black Cat, there are a lot of clues throughout the short story that let us know that the narrator is not really to be trusted. So he starts off the story by saying straight up, I don't expect you to believe me. I'm going to tell you something really crazy, but I promise you it's the truth. And it's like, okay, well, when you start off like that, I don't really believe you.
Like when you're giving a speech, you don't want to stand up and say, I'm super nervous, because then everyone's going to notice how nervous you are. Don't tell us you're an unreliable narrator.
Right. Like, it's going to sound crazy, but I promise it's the truth. Like, all right. So he says, that should tingle your spidey senses as a reader, right? And not in the fun way. And he describes his moods and his behaviors changing and sort of slips in there like, oh, also, I drink all the time. You know how it is. Like, well, wait a second. That's kind of an important detail.
I
you know?
didn't choose the thug life. It chose me.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start the story with, I'm a raging alcoholic with a rage problem, and not, let me tell you this crazy thing, you know? So like the way that the story starts off is a big clue. So the biggest clue though for the Black Cat narrator is the description of his behavior, the behavior itself. So gouging out your pet's eye, hanging your pet because you feel bad that you gouged its eye out, killing your wife, immediately hiding her body in a sophisticated way, and seeming to have no remorse at all for killing your wife. Those are all pretty major red flags. Something's not quite right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah. So the narrator is telling us all of these events pretty nonchalantly. And even at the beginning of the story says he's just listing household events. Like he's reading a chore list to you.
Right.
And by the time you get to the killing your wife, you're like, hold on.
Wait a second.
Didn't you say at the beginning that this was just, I'm just going to tell you these household events? Like that is that's underselling what happened
It
quite a bit.
shows the descent into madness, though, because
Yeah.
it's like,
For sure.
this is normal. You get rid of problems, right?
Right, because he's telling the story after the fact, right? After all of the descent is complete. He's at the bottom of the madness. So it seems pretty clear that the narrator does not have the typical view of these behaviors that us as a reader would have, especially when he decides to point out to the police the plastered wall right as he's feeling proud of himself for outsmarting them. Like
Look
that
at
was
cool
dumb.
wall, guys.
Yeah, like that was stupid, right?
Yeah.
So we see this unreliable narrator in the show as well, namely through Roderick, but also in all of the children. So the fact that Leo is the only one that can see the cat, Tammy is the only one that can see Verna in Bill's video, makes them all unreliable because we as viewers can't really be sure what is real in the show and what Verna is making them see. Just like with Camille, she saw Verna on the table, but really it was the chimpanzee that kills her.
Yeah.
Right? So as viewers, we're not really sure what's actually happening and what's inside their
And
heads.
I love that, too, because it makes you feel mad.
Yes.
Exactly.
Doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. So Roderick, being diagnosed with vascular dementia, seeing all of his dead kids throughout the show and other things too, makes him unreliable for the exact same reason. So are these visions because of his illness? Are these visions because of Verna? Is any of this story even real? Did he make the entire thing up in his head? Right? So like as a viewer, you have to start questioning every single thing, even his conversation with August in the dilapidated house. Is that even happening? Right? So the result of having an unreliable narrator ultimately is just extra tension for the reader and oftentimes excitement when you realize that something is up and you start to question everything and you can put the pieces together, which is what we're talking about with this show, right? So trying to piece everything together episode by episode and then getting excited when you get proven right or you have these theories. It reminded me a lot of WandaVision, actually, when I was typing all this up, because that is also an unreliable narrator, right? Like we are seeing all of this stuff in WandaVision happen from Wanda's point of view.
Well, and you're also like, why are the decades changing?
Exactly. Every single episode you're like, wait, what? And the closer
Weren't
you
they in
get
the 50s?
exactly, the closer you get to the end of the show, just like with this, the more pieces get put together and the more everything makes sense. So by the time you get to the end of the last episode, the whole story becomes clear and you realize, oh, Wanda had no idea what was going on.
Right.
Which, I haven't watched the whole show yet. So maybe
You've not watched all of WandaVision?
No, I mean this show. Follow the House of
I was
Usher.
about to say, prepare to cry, bitch.
Oh no, I definitely watched WandaVision, but this, I don't know where it's going to end up with Roderick, but we can't trust anything. Just like Roderick himself knows, I have this vascular dementia and I'm seeing things and it looks really real.
And Perry
right?
was back in this episode too, and he was with Juno, just fucking staring at him.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
terrifying.
that was. Yeah, I don't like that either.
And the squelching noises were there too.
But yeah, I made that connection of an unreliable narrator, and I was like, of course, that's exactly what he's doing with Roderick.
That's
for sure.
kind of Mike Flanagan's thing on
Yeah,
Netflix, though.
that's true.
Every show he's done has an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, which I just really like.
I appreciate that too.
Class is dismissed.
Thank you, Mrs. Weaver.
There will be no quiz. What about episode MVP? Who'd you guys pick?
Oh, I picked Augie.
Aw.
And the reason why is that he sees Roderick, like the younger Roderick. He really sees him. And I think Annabelle Lee does, but not like Roderick does. He sees that they are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
That he and Annabelle Lee were up all night with their sick son. He's talking about the coffee cups and how there's more than one. And he knows they were up in the middle of the night and the kid's napping at a weird time. So he's probably exhausted. And he tells Roderick, I know you don't want to rock the boat and put yourself in a worse living situation.
Yeah.
And leaves it open to him. And like Augie is really, I think to the family, he's a villain, right? But he's one of the only good people in the story because he's like, I get it. I get why you don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
And then he's fighting for, these hundreds of thousands of people that have overdosed on Ligadone or gotten hurt from Ligadone.
Yeah.
And he is portrayed from this unreliable narrator's point of view as the bad guy. And he's a really good guy.
He's the villain to the ushers.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, and that whole scene, I really appreciated understanding that was the Dupin from the Murder in the Rue Morgue, the story.
Right.
Because that's exactly what he does in the story that Poe wrote. He walks into the apartment and is like, this tells me that. This tells me this. That's exactly what he does in the
Very
story.
observant.
Yeah,
And
but it was more
also-
interesting in the episode than it was in that story.
Rahul Kohli got his first big break on iZombie, and the young guy that plays Augie is also from iZombie.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Very cool.
What about you, Mindy? Who's your MVP?
I think you all might be surprised, but it's young Madeline.
Oh,
Really?
interesting.
Do you want to sleep with her too?
No, I absolutely do not. That bitch is crazy. But
She'd be into some good weird stuff.
she's got some kinks for sure. So I just think that I like the way her mind works. And even Roderick talks about how much of a genius she is when
Yeah.
he's talking to Augie. But she's just always thinking extra steps ahead and then calling Roderick out on his indecisiveness and telling it like it is. Like she tells him to eat shit and like it and still do the right thing too by calling Augie.
Yeah.
She's a take charge kind of woman.
Yeah,
I don't
she
know.
really is.
You
And
got to
she has
appreciate
to-
that part.
She has to work through Roderick though because it's the 70s.
Exactly.
Well, and one redeeming quality that she just takes to a ridiculous extreme is her loyalty to her brother, right?
Yeah.
maybe it's incestuous, but
I was about to say, you don't want your lover unhappy.
right. They clearly love each other and are committed to like taking care of each other, but they just do it in like a really evil way.
Right.
Right. Like loyal to a fault.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, my MVP might also be surprising, but it was actually Freddie because he made me laugh. And he actually made me feel bad for him this episode with the trying to figure out the burner phone, being in denial that it's his wife's, climbing all the stairs to get to Leo's apartment. Like, he made me laugh and he made me feel sympathetic to him at this point, which again, I know that's going to change because he's on this show, right? Like, he's not a good person. And I'm probably going to be like, oh, I wish I hadn't felt bad for you.
He's a good person in Midnight Mass, ultimately.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. He is a good person in Midnight Mass. But yeah, he made me laugh and he made me feel bad for him. And I thought that was a strong feat to make me feel bad for him in a show like this. You know?
My favorite secondary character is for the same exact reason, because he is tragically funny, and it's Leo. And it is, so whenever Freddie comes in to get the cocaine and he's like, because you're upset about your wife's orgy, and he's like, don't call it that. And he's like, so sorry, I mean cuddle puddle.
That made me laugh too.
I laughed out loud. And then we've already brought this up, but the fact that he uses Thor's hammer to destroy his apartment is just like icing on a cake.
I need those bits to not like make me descend into madness watching this show, because it is very dark and very, you know, you really have to dig deep.
I have to say, I'm really upset that I don't see anything in like IMDb on Mike Flanagan for any future Netflix shows. That doesn't mean he's not going to do one, but I'm like jonesing for
not anytime soon.
Yeah.
And we'll just have to rewatch the other ones.
I did think about rewatching Midnight Mass, but it scares me.
I know. What about you, Min?
Well, my secondary character that I loved were the sound effects at the beginning and end of each episode. So if you notice, the last one was chimpanzee noises when it opens up and when it closes down. This one was a cat meowing. But so they always begin and end with the same noise or sound, but it's a different mood, if that makes sense. So like the chimpanzee one opened up and it was like happy chimpanzees,
like a playful,
and then when it ends, it's like you can tell, like angry. I guess, and maybe it honestly it may be the very same sound, but because of what the you know, what you've
your
just watched
is different.
And same with the cat one. It starts
I haven't
out.
Noticed that. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I'm curious now to see if, because this is not something I noticed on my first watch, to see if that happens again, because I know some of the other like sounds things make. And I'm wondering if it does the same thing, starts and ends.
That's interesting.
I'm pretty sure the next one does.
I think it does.
I would assume that it does. Yeah. So my favorite secondary character was August, both young and older, for all the reasons that you said, Deb. I like his seriousness and just his overall energy on camera, both actors, the younger version and the older version. He's not as watchable as Verna to me, but his dialogue is just really well written, and young Augie makes me want to help him, right? Like, I'm like, do it. Just say yes. It's worth the risk, even though I know like this ends very badly for everyone involved. But I really like him a lot. What questions do you guys have that you want to be resolved?
Questions.
I know. I do too.
So my first one is, why does Lenore keep texting Roderick?
That's one of mine,
and
too.
why is he ignoring her?
Well, and I said too, I have a prediction that that's not actually Lenore, that it's her AI clone that she's working on with Madeline, and that's why he's ignoring it, because he knows it's not really her.
Interesting. I can't remember what.
I can't either.
Okay, so my next one is, what is Madeline doing in the basement? They keep hearing shit down there. Like, what is she doing down there?
Is it actually her?
Right. And at one point, Augie's like, well, should we just like go down there and get her? Right. And Roddy's like, no,
don't do that.
And then my final one, and this stuck with me in the first episode, we saw this too. We have seen Leo get 2 BJs. Okay. He hardly reacts either time.
I know.
I don't think he likes them.
I know. Like, that chick is sucking his dick while he's playing video games. He's not even breathing heavy.
Yeah, he does not
and
care.
then he has a guy that he supposedly
his partner,
loves going down on him, and he's so obsessed with the cat that he can't even focus on what's going on. I mean, if my husband's downtown, I am not paying attention to what's going on around me.
For real.
Yeah. I'm not answering the phone. I cannot talk through that shit. Thanks, sexual butler. But that's my big one. He's just so nonchalant about getting blowies.
Yeah. I mean, that's clearly a choice because this isn't the kind of show where they would just be like, oh, yeah, that wasn't very good acting. We'll just keep that shot. Right. So, like, it's clearly a choice for his character, but I don't know what it is.
The drugs?
Oh, maybe.
I didn't think about that.
Maybe it desensitizes him.
Maybe.
So
don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, just say no.
Then you won't like your blowjobs.
Yeah. My only other question besides the Lenore's continuing to blow up Roderick's phone, and is it actually her? When Leo's... Okay, so Roderick is talking to August and is pouring himself a drink. And, you know, just like the other kids have had to jump scare and they appear to Roderick, Leo falls from the ceiling, right? Which foreshadows the kind of death that he has. And Roderick screams in like an angry way. At first it was a scared, like, oh, jump scare scream, but then he was like, I was in the middle of talking and like cusses or something.
Yeah.
And August freaks out on him. He gets real upset.
He's like, I will fuck you up.
Yes. And I'm like, what's that about? Yeah. Like, obviously they have not a good relationship, and obviously there's a lot of history there, but that whole interaction
triggered him.
Yeah, like that interaction was weird, and I want to know why.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it was. Well, and I've noticed too that Roderick has different reactions to these different, like, I just keep calling them ghosts instead of hallucination, but he has different reactions to the different kids at different times. And I just, like, what is that about? Yeah. And then the only other thing I want to say is not really a question, but something Robbie pointed out, that because he's watching the show with me, he's trying to keep track of what Roderick is talking about when a ghost appears to him. Oh. And to see if there's like a
thread.
Yeah, a thread or something.
Is there so far?
Well, we don't know yet because we just had the idea. But I was like, that's a really good point. So now I want to go back and like make note of it.
All three husbands have had a shout out this episode.
Shout out to Remy. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting point because I bet that there is a method to that madness, right? Like, I doubt that they just randomly are like, well, we'll do it right here, you know? So anyway, I thought that was a good idea. What about you, Mindy? What questions do you have?
I think I've already asked the ones that I had. I want to know if in future episodes they do the sound effects. And then I think I already mentioned too that I'm really curious to know why Freddy's scared of elevators.
Yeah, that's one of my big ones.
I can't wait to figure that out.
I'm sure that it's more than just a way to laugh at the character, right? Like, Mike Flanagan's much deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, what are we looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to next week's episode. It's the Telltale Heart episode, and it's my favorite one in the series. I just remember watching it, and
the favorite episode.
Yeah. I just remember it being really well done. And then I am interested to find out more about how Verna plays into things. Right, like what is she doing? And you know, we've got this. You already brought this up, but we've got the whole Carticel thing, and we've got Verna. So is she causing the hallucinations, or is his vascular dementia causing because she's fucking with all
or
of them.
Both.
Yep.
Right.
Or both.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or does he not have that at all and it's all her?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the unreliable narrator part of it all, of like, what is actually happening? And it may be one of those things that we never find out for sure.
We did this with Midnight Mass too, but I'm at a point in the story where when I watch an episode, I don't want to stop watching. It's been very hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I have watched one more episode, but Robbie's like, let's watch the next one. I'm like, I'm going to get too confused. I can't do it. But I'm the same way. I want to keep watching too. Well, I'm curious to see how Madeline and Roderick are going to deal with the fact that they recognize this person as the bartender, right? Because they didn't
do anything about it.
Yeah, they didn't really deal with that at all. And I had some theories for the next episode that I am not going to share, but I just want everyone to know they were all incorrect. Because I did watch.
Will you share them next week?
Yeah, if I remember, I will. Yeah. And then the last thing, I'm just curious to see how Freddy's storyline is going to play out, especially with Lenore and his wife being in the ICU and how much denial he's in at this point with what actually happened and why she was there. And there's just like, I know it's going to be horrible. I just know it's going to be the worst. And I'm assuming he's last because he's the oldest, because it seems like they're going in like age order.
I can't remember.
But I'm assuming that he's going to be the last one. But anyway, I'm curious.
Oh, he is the last one, I think.
I think he is too.
Yeah, because it's Victorine, Tammy, and then
and then
Freddy.
him. That's their ages too, I think. So anyway,
interesting. Good catch.
I just want to see how that goes. Are there
one thing too about that scene with him doing his? Was anybody else like bitch, her face isn't going to be recognized on that face
Oh my gosh,
recognition.
with the facial recognition,
Yes,
face ID.
I was like, dude,
I wrote that
are
down.
you dumb?
I was like, is he really going to do that right now? I was like, that is not going to work. And I'm pretty sure that if you tried to do
yeah.
like a thumbprint, like
That's
those would have been burned off. Yeah. I was like,
Also,
bro.
you are weird.
He doesn't get squeamish unwrapping her face, but he gets squeamish holding the phone close to it.
yeah, that was
Kind of
weird.
shows that he's an ass.
He's
Yeah.
so
Right? He doesn't
he's so weird.
really care about her, I don't think,
Well,
unfortunately.
we'll find out.
But what I'm actually,
Is it true love? Sorry.
what I'm actually looking forward to is I'm ready for Victorine to die because she is despicable.
I'm kind of tired of her shit.
Yeah,
I think she's going to.
she is. That's what I'm looking forward to next episode. It's going to be my favorite episode too because she's going to be gone.
Hooray.
That sounds really terrible. Like I am.
Well, they're not real, so it's okay.
I know, but like, man, I sound murderous right now.
I said I was looking forward to Camille dying.
Yeah,
That's
they're
true,
not real
that's true.
people. It's fine. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about on the episode before we go into our nerdiest things of the
No.
week? Well, then let's talk about our nerdiest things of the week. Who wants to go first?
You go, Wit.
Well, okay. This is just a dumb thing. So I get emails from the post office every day that's like, this is what's going to be in your mailbox today. And it'll tell you when you have a package coming through the U.S. mail, like this is 1 or 2 days away or whatever, you can track.
Informed delivery.
Yes.
I have
Yeah,
as well.
I do that all the time. So we've been having a lot of packages and online orders. We've got my kids' birthdays, new book releases, and there have been like 7 or 8 packages all coming on those emails.
Right.
And I've been trying really hard to keep track of what all of them are. And I'm like, okay, I know that one is, for Liam's birthday. I know that one is Robbie's contacts. And there was this one that I was like, I don't know what that is. And I didn't recognize the sender that it was coming from. And I had no idea what it was going to be. And so it came in and I opened it and was like, oh my gosh. It was from our local indie bookstore, a novel romance. And I was like, what did I order from that? Like, I had no memory of ordering anything. And it was a second copy of Onyx Storm. I ordered one from Barnes & Noble, and I ordered another one from our indie local bookseller.
Thanks for supporting the local
Yeah.
indies.
Well, you're welcome. I did not mean to. I did not know that I did. And I opened it, and my kids were like, don't you already have that? And I was like, yeah. So now I've got 2 on my bookshelf.
I was in there on Saturday and actually had them order me a non-romance book because I wanted to support them.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm really obsessed right now with Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff.
yeah.
The 3rd book comes out this year, but I gave both the first 2 books 5 stars, and I don't have the 2nd book. And it's pricey on Amazon, so if I'm going to spend a lot, I'd rather spend it
there.
at
Yeah, no
Indie.
kidding.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So I was kind of embarrassed that I didn't remember ordering those
I've done that
things.
before too.
Yeah.
Though.
It's the first time for me. But, it's fine.
Do you see that it was the top-selling debut novel for adult fantasy in like 20 years or something?
I saw somebody, and I did not verify
and I may
this.
be saying that wrong.
I
but-
saw that it made more money than like any of the movies did this past week.
Oh, really?
Like for
Wow.
the opening weekend or
Even Dogman.
especially Dogman.
But I was telling my husband, depending on what kind of publishing rights she has, even if she made $1 a book, she made $2.5 million last week.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good
Right.
week.
Which hopefully
Yeah.
she makes more than $1 a book. But I mean, who
Yeah.
knows?
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Who
that's
knows
like
what
the
those
music
contracts
and
are.
acting industry.
Yeah.
You don't make a lot unless you make it real big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. What are your all's nerdiest things?
Well, I'm wearing mine. So today
Oh, nice.
in elementary school land, it is the 100th day of school here in Kentucky.
Yay.
So I've talked about being a Vine reviewer, and I had found a couple months ago this T-shirt on there for it's a 100th day T-shirt. It's
really
actually
cute.
super cute.
It
It's got like a
is.
little disco ball on it. It's really nice quality. I'm only going to wear it once a year, but
Right.
I'm a teacher, so it will get worn more than
Yeah.
once. And I got so many compliments on it, I must say.
It is very cute.
Hey.
So, but yeah,
Well
that
done.
was fun.
Well done, Mindy.
When we hit 100 days, is that like the halfway mark, or are we just doing 100
Oh,
days?
it's more than halfway.
It's,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's more. But I think it's really more of like a kindergarten thing.
Right.
Yeah.
They
Counting to 100.
counting to 100 and like recognizing that, and it's just I don't know. I don't know who decided it
I
was
feel
a
like
thing,
the
but it's a thing.
the spring semester of school is so long because
It
you don't
is.
have a bunch of breaks like you do in the
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah, it is
Absolutely.
super
Yeah.
long for sure. What was your nerdiest thing, Deb?
Well, I took a group of friends to a local candle shop. It's locally owned. It's woman owned. It's called Commonwealth Candle. You can buy from her online. She does ship. I don't buy candles from anyone but her. She's amazing. They're soy, they're vegan, they're like awesome. But I made 2 candles while I was there because you could do
Nice.
candle pouring
Fun.
classes with her. One is called Book Boyfriend.
Oh, nice.
And it's bonfire, tuxedo, and rain.
Ooh.
I'll let
that's
you guys
awesome.
smell it. I mean, it smells so fucking good. And then I made a romantic-y one, which this sounds weird, but it works. It's lilac, lemon, and cinnamon.
Ooh.
Oh, I think that sounds
So I have a
really
good.
romantic-y candle and a book boyfriend
So
candle.
this is
Nice.
local to Louisville?
Yeah, she's down in J-Town, and she used to, just like me, like work out of her house, and she had a little shop at Melwood for a while, and then she opened in J-Town last year. She's 2 doors down from Novel Romance.
Oh.
That's awesome.
She's awesome. She's great. Her name's Stephanie.
Did you take,
Cool.
was this your Peakers group?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. We had a
That's
great time.
awesome.
Super fun.
I'm going to have to check that out. That sounds super fun.
Yeah.
I did
I'll go
something-
with you.
Okay, and something I think we should take like Sadie and Molly.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think they would enjoy
And book
that.
club.
Yeah.
They'd love
It
it.
would be fun. Well, guys, that's it for this
Yeah.
episode. Next week, we're talking about the fall of the House of Usher, episode 5, the Telltale Heart, and Poe's short story of the same name. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Like what you heard in this episode? Follow Our Nerdiest Thing on Instagram at instagram.com/Our Nerdiest Thing or Facebook at facebook.com/Our Nerdiest Thing. We love hearing from fellow nerds. Email us at ournerdiestthing@gmail.com.